because at that time everybody was doing their own thing, and everybody was jealous of the other group. Most of us were jealous of the African Americans because they seemed to get the most attention, and some of us started saying, you know, it doesn't make any sense if we fight against each other. That's not doing anybody any good. Let's come together and try to build coalitions. Let's see if working together we can gain more for all of us. And that was the start of my involvement in a multiracial way. If you were to ask me what community do I work with now and over the last maybe 30 years, it's with a multiracial, multi-ethnic community, which means I work with as many different communities as I possibly can.
So, why do you think it was important to set up a scholarship fund?
Oh, you also know about that. That I had nothing to do with, okay? This was a group of folk from the United Church of Christ that decided, number one, we have a scholarship for African Americans, which is great because this is to become ministers, because that's very much needed. We have a scholarship fund for gay, lesbian people, transgendered people. That's very needed. But there was not one for Latino pastors. So these fine group of people, friends and colleagues of mine, at my retirement, I retired in 2005 here in Portland, they presented this reality on my behalf, trying to honor me, which is sort of humbling. You know, I'm too young to be honored by anybody. You know, maybe after I die, people can do what they want. But anyway, they did that. And there is a great need because our church is very, very unique. I mean, I don't know if you know much about churches, but some churches find it very difficult to do the kind of things we do. But we feel that's what our task is, that's what our ministry is. And sometimes Latinos coming from other backgrounds find it really hard to be part of the United Church of Christ, so they tend to take their church people in a different direction. And what we want to do is to invite them to be fully United Church of Christ, to be fully committed to justice, to be fully committed to all the values that we feel that we've been called to do. So they set this scholarship fund up, naming it Hector Lopez, right? That's the only connection I have to it. And it's really a wonderful opportunity. When I retired, they asked me, what do you want us to do when you retire? You know, usually a big banquet. You know, people come up and, Hector was great and all that jazz. And I said, I'd like to convene a national consultation on racial justice, because all my life has been committed to racial justice. So that's what we did. We created this consultation, a 4-day consultation here in Portland, inviting African American community, Native American community, Asian American community, white community, might even another group out. I think I am. There's usually 5 around the table. But anyway, they all came together. And for 4 days, we shared stories, we shared creative and art and music, and we shared planning for the future and how could we better address the issue of racial justice, which continues to be a problem in this country. So that's what we did on my retirement, and that probably summed up all of my career, because that's what I've done for 40, 45 years, and continue to do in some way now.
So, what's the Portland Rights Committee?
You mean the Human Rights Commission?
Yeah.
Okay. The Portland Human Rights Commission, I'm glad you asked that, because that's one of the last things I've been doing. Portland has had something similar since 1948, I think. But over the years, it seems to have been a situation in which as soon as the commission started getting pretty aggressive about pointing out things that needed to be fixed in this city, they were shut down. So this is now the 5th reincarnation of this group. It's a new one. It was just started 4 years ago, and at that time Mayor Potter, I don't know if you remember him, who was the chief of police before that, gathered together over 200 people over a 2-year process to address the issue of human rights. And those people, the best thinking they could do, they came up with the concept of a Human Rights Commission for the city of Portland, based on the Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations, which, by the way, remind me to send you all, there's a little pamphlet about this thing that has the human rights, the United Nations Human Rights Declaration. And so that is our Bible for the Human Rights Commission. They selected 15 members from various parts of the community, very diverse group of people, brought them together to form this commission, which doesn't have any authority, legal authority, but rather advises. And we're there to recommend to city council, to the police department, to all other parts of the city, based on our judgment of what we've done. One of the most important parts of that is the Community and Police Relations Committee, of which I have chaired over the last 3 years. Their job was to look at the police department. I hope you know that there's some problems with the police department and the community. You know, sometimes we don't see eye to eye with it. Well, we wanted to help the police department humanize itself and also inform the community in terms of what the police does, that it does well. And there are many things that the police department does well, except nobody knows it. We just look at the shootings that take place, we know the beatings that take place, and that's our vision of the police. Well, this committee includes 5 cops, a chief, a commander, a sergeant, and a captain, and a couple of police officers, you know, the diversity. 5 community people at large and 5 commissioners from the Human Rights Commission. And they were given the responsibility of addressing racial profiling. Do you know what that is? Racial profiling.
Yeah, like stereotyping.
Stereotyping, right. You see a Chicano who looks like a gangster, and you stop him, whether he has done anything wrong or not. You're driving in North Portland, you see an African American, you know, slouched down, and without any infraction, he stopped just because he's black and young. It can go on and on, all sorts of different communities in terms of racial profile. Well, that was the original mandate. We came up with the recommendations for use of force, and right now, if you paid attention to the newspaper, the federal government has demanded that the Bureau change its policies. And what we were doing that way before the federal government came into play. We were helping the Police Bureau change its use of force policies. Right now, the most important thing that the Police Bureau is doing, based on the recommendations from this committee, Community and Police Relations Committee, is developing a 5-year plan to eliminate institutional racism from the Police Bureau, which is huge. The police chief and all of the command staff have affirmed this plan. It's unheard of. There's no other police bureau in the country that has taken on this kind of commitment. So working with the Human Rights Commission through its Community and Police Relations Committee, this is now continuing. They had their first formal event this summer, and they will continue doing that throughout the year. It'll impact every single police officer eventually, and it'll probably change some of the way they do business. So that's a very important. The Human Rights Commission also addresses other issues, housing issues. They're looking at education, the equity, the lack of equity in education. They're looking at other places where human rights, in the city particularly, are not being protected. It's a very important role. So I recently resigned from the Human Rights Commission because it's time for younger people to take leadership, and I've had a good run. So that's what the Human Rights Commission is trying to do, amongst many other things.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Wait, you're not done yet. Let me tell you about some of the other things here that are happening in the city of Portland that are very important for you. 9/11, do you remember 9/11?
Yes.
Okay, that was what? Wow. 11 years ago? 2001, right? You guys were barely out of diapers at that time. Yet, you know what it is, right? It's because it had that much of an impact on the whole country. 9/11 hit. 9/12, I and Washti Saeed, who you probably should have had here as one of the freedom riders maybe the first time around. He's a Muslim, one of the leaders in the state, in the Muslim community. He and I, the pastor at Ainsworth United Church of Christ, who happens to be my wife, but probably also should be at this table, along with some other people, called a meeting, and right the next day that it happened, of religious leaders and community leaders. Over 100 people showed up, and we formed the Interfaith Council of Greater Portland, with Washti Saeed and I as the co-chairs. The idea of that was to protect the Muslim community from repercussions. Because if you know, right now, everyone calls any terrorist a Muslim terrorist. Somehow, it would be like us calling someone who happened to be Christian a Christian murderer or a Christian terrorist or whatever. Well, we thought that was very unfair, and we formed this Interfaith Council to make sure that the Muslim community in our area was protected. And so we went and at times stood in front of the mosques in the area. We went to court with people who were accused unjustly. Do you remember the lawyer who was accused of being an Al-Qaeda from Beaverton? Anyway, we provided support for those people who were unjustly accused. And this group continues to this day, still very much alert. It's now totally interfaith, so all people from every church, every denomination, even people who aren't church folk, gather around monthly to make sure that they know one another, that ignorance never be part of their response to another community. So that's very critical. Washti and I continue to host a luncheon every Tuesday at a restaurant downtown, bringing together the different people so we continue to share the information. That's very important. And Mr. Saeed has spoken to he and his group have spoken to over 1,000 groups since 9/11, trying to bring understanding and justice to the whole issue surrounding the Muslim community. That's one of the very important things that's happening in the city today. Another is, and I know that this program is an incredible program, and in the spring you're thinking of doing an action,
Yeah.
right? That's part of your Freedom Rider. I don't know what you all mean by action, but in the communities that I work with, an action means either a demonstration, a parade, or like when the immigration, ICE, the Immigration Service, was taking young people who were arrested for traffic warrants and then placed in lockups to be sent back to Mexico. An action would be to go and demonstrate in front of the facility where the youngster was being held, or in front of the sheriff's office, or even City Hall. That's what I would hope, as you go down the road and determine what action you might do out of this kind of work that you all are doing. Try to determine, wow, what does Portland still need to do to ensure that everyone is a full participant in the life of the community, and make some recommendations to City Hall. I'd love to see this project go in front of City Hall and ask of our political leaders, here are some things that we have discovered in our work as in the Freedom Friday project. And we think this is what's very important for you all to do. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, let's check that out.